All right, guys, Eric here with Performance Golf. Big day for the program. To my left, man needs absolutely no introduction at all, but Mr. David Leadbetter, thank you for being out here with us today.
Thanks, Eric. Glad to join you.
Yeah, really appreciate you coming out and doing this. And in today's video, guys, we're going to be talking about how to start the swing correctly. It's an area in my swing that I've struggled with for a long time. I know David's seen the same things, but a lot of you guys who start the swing incorrectly and then are constantly trying to make up for that throughout the rest of the swing, we're gonna try and give them some ways to start the swing correctly. You can set yourself up for success to make the swing throughout much easier. We also have the StraightAway we're gonna pull out today, which I haven't used yet, that I've seen, that I'm excited to try. But David, if I take a setup position and let's say kind of in general terms to start, then we can go through specifics.
Right.
But if I came in for a lesson, I'm like, hey, I'm not really sure exactly how to get my swing started, and I'd like some guidelines of how do I actually start moving. Where would you start somewhere in terms of starting the swing?
Well, there's no question, look, a good grip and good posture, and obviously tie and alignment are factors, okay? If you're setting up badly to it, if you've got a poor grip, the tendency is you're gonna make some sort of takeaway. And I actually really don't like the term takeaway. I use it now because everybody understands, okay, it's the first movement in the swing. And I actually prefer the word or the term move away, because you're actually moving it with your torso. I think where most players go wrong, they have, if you ask people what they understand by the term takeaway, there's a lot of different answers, and most of them are incorrect. But essentially it sets you up as you were, it's a sequence effect, right? It's like a domino effect. If you're wrong to start with, compensations then have to creep in. And if you were a good athlete and you practice a lot, you'll probably compensate well. But I think certainly for most golfers, if they can get off to a good start, it's a chain reaction. It's getting the sequence right. And so if you look at, it's interesting today how many players are actually rehearsing that takeaway move, right? I mean, it's like on the LPGA, virtually every player does, and there's a lot of players on the PGA Tour who actually have that first movement. And even look at it, like Justin Thomas and it's Sam Burns. I mean, they even go a little further than the initial takeaway. But it's important, because I say if you get that club moving, more than anything, it helps to synchronize the arms and the body, the two most important components in the swing. So to me, I've always talked about, hey, your setup, that's one component. Your torso movement, the way you wind up, the way you coil, the way your weight transfers, the way you release, the way you rotate, all those factors, because you can actually get somebody to make a pretty good torso movement, but all of a sudden you put a club in their hand, and it's like, you imagine, you get somebody to do a pivot drill, well, that looks pretty good. Put a club in their hand and they're going like this, and you say, why am I reverse pivoting? Okay, I've got to stop that. But as you know, Eric, with all your teaching, so much of golf it's cause and effect, right? So trying to fix the effect is where a lot of people go wrong, and that's a never-ending battle. So really, to get off to a good start, really where you synchronize the arms and the body, over the years I've used certain phrases, and one of my phrases has always been, let the dog wag the tail. This being the dog, this being the tail. And the problem is, in most players' cases, the tail wags the dog, right? So they're trying to put it in a certain position, and there's all sorts of drills. And the interesting thing is, I've always talked about initially, if you just take your address there, I've always talked initially about, okay, as you move the club away, you can see the hands appear in and the club head appears out. So the typical thing with amateurs, what we see is that the club goes in and the hands go out. Okay, now we do see, that's the most common, and we see players who sort of, take the club out this way. We see them shut it, we see them open it, we see them pick it up. We've actually almost identified 8 different bad takeaways that amateurs make. Okay. And virtually all of them are as a result of the body not being linked with the club. Okay. So, it's like, people don't realize the importance that this is your engine. If you ask Ernie Els, obviously I've worked with for many a year, you ask Ernie, to this day, he'll tell you, how do you start your backswing, Ernie? He'll say, I guarantee you, with my belly button. Okay, so your belly button really is your core. It's not strictly true, but essentially your obliques are actually working, especially you can see this left oblique sort of goes down somewhat, the right oblique goes up, but it's a movement from here which really establishes that link between your arms and your body. So this feeling, let's try this again. So when you make this movement, and it's an interesting thing, the takeaways are a really short movement. I always talk about not letting the butt of the club get past the hip pocket, okay? So whether you're right or lefty, doesn't really matter. and you can see that movement there. Essentially, okay, if I'm to stand here now, and you move your feet around and face me, just bring your feet around and put it down, you're in the same position you were to dress. So all you're doing is shifting your dress position a short distance, because I think that first little bit there is what messes up so many golfers. They just don't understand the simplicity of how, you know, the takeaway and what it does for the swing.
Correctly. I think such a key point here that goes unsaid a lot with the takeaway, because a lot of the takeaway, and I'm guilty of this in videos as well, we get so focused, let's say, on like where the arms and hands are, that just core statement you made of starting the swing with the body. And I bet of those 8 bad takeaways, all of them can be rooted in some form of this didn't start.
Correct.
Yeah, correct. I like that. We'll use that as a little tagline. So let's say conceptually someone's watching, like, okay, I get that. That makes good sense to me.
Yeah,
I want to start with my core going back.
Right.
But okay, I want to swing the club. I want to start moving a little bit. How did we incorporate the Can we throw that on here?
Yeah.
Can we talk about that?
So this is a little swing aid, as I like to call it, which we've developed. And I'll just throw that over there. And it's very simple. And I really like swing aids, training aids, call it what you will, that are simple, because this just clips on.
Yeah.
You can put it in that little bag, stick it in your golf bag. And the nice thing about it with the colors, these colors are designed because mentally you actually sort of have a good picture. I've always felt that, say, 3 ways to get your swing right. Understand the concept, where you are, where you need to get to. Have a good visual, a good picture in your mind of what you're doing. And then, hey, develop the feel. So this is what this
Concept,
really helps
picture,
to do.
feel.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll just take your club here. We just clip it on beneath your grip. This works for righties and lefties. So it says RH, right-hander. So we clip it on like so. Make sure that red arrow, the red and the white arrow, pointing straight down the shaft.
Okay.
There we go. It's just like putting a grip on, really. You know, a lot of grips have, you know, their
little logo on there.
You know, you've got the logo on, and so yours does. So we'll just straight down there. Just
pop it on,
just
screw
pop
it on.
Yeah. So you just clip it on. You know, our little tagline is clip it and rip it.
Clip it and rip it. I like that too. Yeah, what a good taglines, David.
Yeah. Yeah, you know. When you've been in this business as long as I have, Eric, you come up with all these sort of taglines here. Here we go. All right, so here we go. So that's it. Now, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this aim stick.
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to put it. Okay, if you can set up to the ball. Okay. Same target line.
Flag,
so yeah, you can put you can use a club or an alignment stick. So this just happens to be, we've got these colors here, because you'll see now this yellow pointer arrow is the important one. So I'm going to put it right on your toe line here. Okay. So right. So now the whole deal is, okay, so imagine if you I'm going to show you something. If you took it out here and okay, look where the arrow points, right?
Yep.
We're talking about that initial takeaway move. Typically, what do we see? I mean, this is what we'll see, where a player has a club, has that pointing over here.
Oh yeah,
right?
okay.
Now, if you move it correctly, and the one thing I always like to say, try to keep the arms relaxed so the core can really control this whole motion. More tension in the arms, the more tendency is the hands and arms to get involved early on. So it's a soft movement, and you can see as you move it back here now, right, you see how this is now parallel to that.
Oh yeah, okay.
Okay, so it's parallel, and when you view it, it actually looks like it's slightly inside of it, right? Can you
just a little bit, yep.
Right, but actually the funny thing is there's an optical illusion, because once you look at it from down the line, it looks right on top. It's right on top.
Oh, that's cool, okay.
Yeah, so look, I want to point out, this is not a method per se, because look, there's a lot of different philosophies out there, whether it be one plane, 2 planes, whether it be flat, upright, whether it be long, short, whether it be bowed, whether it be neutral. But I would say virtually every teacher agrees on the first movement. And if, you know, if we can get, and as I say to other teachers, look, if I can get somebody to get the first move right for you, it's going to make the rest of your job that much easier. Let's do that again. So you set up to it, and as a little afterthought, if you will, not really an afterthought, but just try to keep your left arm and your chest connected. So there's no, there you go, that's it. Good. Now, a lot of people, when they do this, especially if people roll inside, they say, man, that club face feels dead shut. But actually, it's not. It's actually square to the arc.
Yeah.
Okay, so there've been, for years, the theory was, okay, we'll make sure when the club's parallel, the toe's straight up in here. You don't see that too often. Even though Justin Thomas does that in his rehearsal, I would say at some point he was probably very, very close. So that's his feel. You know, and I've used that before too. You know who I think has the best takeaway in golf, surprisingly, is Tiger. It's amazing. I mean, if you look at his pictures, how the butt of the club, okay, this is a little bit of theory. So imagine a little circle, It's not quite a circle, but think of it that way. Think a little circle that the hands travel on, or the butt of the club travels on, and a bigger circle that the club head travels on. So to start with, you want to keep the little circle inside the big circle. Can you see that? So if anything, the butt of the club is actually getting closer to your right leg.
Yep.
Okay, so see, this gap is narrowed, okay, where the tendency is a lot of players, especially if they think of swinging it straight back, if anything, that gets further away.
Yeah.
And as I say, my major philosophy really in anybody's golf swing is to try to synchronize the swing. In other words, I've always felt that within reason, when you've completed your rotation, your arms should maybe 1 or 2 extra frames, but you see, how many players do you see, especially if they work on turn, they finish their turn, now they lift the arms to the top and they wonder why am I working, how can I get the club coming from the inside?
Yeah.
Well, probably you can't. So the thing is, what this does, you're following a track, it is the shortest, most efficient route to the top. Yeah.
So if I was going to start hitting with this,
Right.
and I'm taking my normal, okay, so I'm feeling a little bit of my core.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I could definitely see, David, like if I did my normal and I was just hitting, I would want to have the tail leading.
Yeah.
I would definitely get the club a little more in,
Right.
very little rotation looking like this. So I can see what you mean in terms of the club face too, just by my body doing that. Compared to if I do it correctly, the club face automatically stays much more square to the arc.
Right.
The hand path has moved in a little bit.
Right.
Okay, so the hand path circle, the small circle, is arcing in some, and then the bigger circle, the club head's arcing in slightly as well.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right, let me hit one with this here to start with. I'm gonna feel that, which for me, because I think I need a lot of that, feels pretty good. Yeah, that was solid. I'll take that.
You know, the thing is, it's like, if you're synced up better, guess what? I mean, I've always been what I would term a body teacher, okay? Thinking, I mean, I understand how important the hands and the arms are in the swing.
Yep.
But the fact of the matter is, I mean, if you look, especially with better players, their rotation is what squares the face off. It's not, you know, a lot of this flip and roll, right? I mean, not many players do that these days. I mean, that dates back to Hickory, and we had all the club was doing this sort of thing, right?
Right.
We had to, you know, that sort of move. So it's get your body involved so much more because it realizes that you're in sync, and your body says, oh, okay, I can go now. Whereas before that, the tendency is for the body to sort of just slow down and wait for this to catch up. So that slow down, catch up, that stall, whatever you want to term it, can create problems from a consistency standpoint.
And I think most people we probably both work with, I mean, you work with many great players, but I mean, the amateur players that we would see, they want efficiency. They're not going to practice and play a ton. They want the easiest way to do it.
Right.
And so if the easiest way to do it is that direct line like we talked about, I think let me hit one more just with this, and then I think we're going to do a part 2 of us digging into some of the details of how to do the pivot drills and such.
Absolutely. So make sure that sticks right on your toe line because that's what you want to. There you go. That's it. So
I'm
you
cheating it a little already.
There we go. So here's the yellow pointer arrow. We can see. That's it. See
Yeah, it's
that
a really
is there?
good visual.
Yeah, that's really good. And so here's a little bonus, added bonus. Here we go, which performance golf love these added bonuses.
Yeah.
Okay, so go back here. So watch. Now watch what it does as you come down. So this is a great visual for players. Obviously you're not going to see it because it's moving too quick. But as you move forward here, look how as you start to rotate, see how it returns back here again, where a lot of players who are late, stuck underneath.
Oh, it's me big time.
That's it. So it gives you a really good image of the top of the club going this way while the head is still coming from the inside.
Oh, that's cool. So I'm getting back on that same plane.
Exactly. Where the club head, once again, is outside your hands, not stuck behind your hands.
Yeah.
Now that's not necessarily
big time.
That's not necessarily true for a slicer, okay? Because we want to have the club a little more behind the hands, you know, instead of being out in front. But that's why the versatility of the straightaway really, and you know why it's called a straightaway. Okay, simply because look, see how this points straight away from you?
I like it. Pretty clever.
You know how I developed this? Kidding aside.
Yeah.
I was messing around at home. I was in a mirror, you know, and I had my finger off the club like this, my forefinger, because we always spoke about the 8 o'clock position in the swing, where the club points at 8 o'clock, right? Which it does. But I say, hey, look, if I make this movement right, my finger points straight away towards 9 o'clock.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
You see there?
Yes. Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
So the poor man straightaway is where you just use your finger, but it doesn't work well if you haven't got a flexible finger.
I like it. I'm not saying this just because you're standing in front of me. I have never used this before. I've seen the videos of it, and I think so. Just real quick again, you're not saying, okay, hey, just move my arms and club to get to there, right?
No, not at all.
Okay, so I have to get some I have to get some core rotation.
That's it, exactly.
That's for me, and I think a lot of people.
We've got some great little drills to do that too.
Okay, let me hit one more with this. I'm going to rehearse one more time.
Yeah.
Get that, match that up right down the line. Let's hit one more. Okay. I mean, those are pretty good. Is that the best you've ever seen?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
In front of you?
Best
Okay.
I've seen on the tee today.
So we're going to do a part 2 here. I think talking more about the pivot drills, how to use this a little bit more, get the body working better. I was going to say give me a lesson, but I don't know if we can do any better than that.
Well, I know it's tough to
David's not
improve
super
on
impressed.
perfection.
Okay.
Yeah.
Eric Cogorno, David Leadbetter. If you guys are interested in the StraightAway, we'll put the link in the first description down below. I have never used this before. I think it's super cool, super effective. I'm interested in the next video you guys will see next week, us using it a little bit more. Appreciate you guys watching. Any questions, always, just leave us a comment down below.